Hello, everybody. A few days ago, I made a post about the importance of forgiving. That when we forgive, is not only something that we do for the one that we forgive, but we also actually give ourselves an essential gift, allowing us to let go of the pains, to heal ourselves of the wounds, and to truly move on, unchaining ourselves from the connection between us and that wrong that was done for us, or that at least we believe was done to us. Today I want to, in continuation of that topic, to also speak a little bit about the ways in which we can actually learn to forgive. Because that was just the first step, the understanding of the true importance for us to forgive. But how is it done? Because any person that has ever tried to forgive probably have noticed that on the stuff that really, really hurts and the stuff that truly matters to us, it is much harder to forgive than what we would think. Well, in situations where I was finding myself carrying some wounds, carrying some pains, and needing to forgive, I found a great help in this book, The Tantric Path of Love to Happiness and Fulfillment in the Couple Relationship by Grigorian Bivolaro. And there is a chapter there that has been extremely helpful about forgiveness, and which includes even a couple of wonderful techniques to forgive. And what I discovered is that forgiveness is like any art. By repeating and by practicing it, you learn to become more and more masterful for it. You become more and more able to do it. Starting off with things that are easier to forgive and gradually building up to the big problems that we might be carrying with us for a very, very long time and having a hard time to let go and forgive. So I would like to share now some elements from one of those forgiveness techniques that I practiced from this book and that has been extremely helpful for me, and also to share a couple of realizations which I had while practicing that technique. The first thing is that we very much tend to identify our ego, our identity, our personality with the pain that was made to us. It's much more easy for us to identify ourselves with our pains than with our happinesses for some reason. And because of that, it can be very helpful when wanting to forgive to try to go beyond our limited personality, to go beyond our ego, our identifications. And a great, great help for that is also to ask for help from something beyond us, to ask for help from something greater than us, to ask for help from God. So as a beginning, in order to enter us into that state, into a state of humility and humbleness and faith, because this one of the things that helps forgiving is when we are humble. When we are proud, it's very, very difficult to let go and forgive. So, in a state of humbleness, to close our eyes and to pray to God in whatever form we believe in Him and we see in Him, in whatever shape or name we like to give it, of this something that is beyond us and is purely good. And then to pray full of humbleness and full of faith, like a child from our heart. Not to overcomplicate, but just to ask, please, with all my heart, I want to forgive. It's hard for me to forgive, but I want to forgive. And please help me to forgive by filling me up with the energies of forgiveness. Because forgiveness, just like love, just like compassion, just like intelligence, and just like any emotion, positive or negative, is energy. Energy which exists in the universe in infinite amounts. And so we pray to God to fill us up with the energy of forgiveness, which is our first step of identifying the fact that we are trying to do something which is hard for us and we need help. And that by itself puts us in a state of humbleness and openness. And once we realize that we ourselves are limited, it is much, much easier afterwards to forgive the limitations of other people. And so we pray in our own words from our heart, please God, help me to forgive with all of my being. Fill me up with the energy of your forgiveness. Help me to forgive as also you forgive me for my mistakes. And it can be very, very helpful to pray in such a way at least 7 times until we start to feel in our being, start to appear a state of humbleness, a state of faith, and to start to feel the presence of the energy of forgiveness in us. Once we've done that, we then turn to the actual act of forgiveness. And we should have, in the beginning, chosen a certain situation, a certain act, a certain person that we want to forgive. And in the case of a person, we have to be very clear about what exactly it is we want to forgive them for. It cannot be very, very, very general. It should be a particular situation, a particular action that they've done. I can tell you already at this phase that when practicing that, I was sometimes surprised because I had a general idea that maybe I need to forgive somebody for something. But then having to go through this process of finding out what it is that I have to forgive them, for, I thought I was a little bit maybe upset, but not really much. And only then when I started to put attention, okay, what am I actually angry about? I realized there was a lot more there than I was willing to admit and that I was willing to recognize. There were way more things there that I was angry about, and I was just ignoring it. I was just pushing it. I was suppressing it into my subconscious, and it was creating a kind of a passive aggressiveness towards that person that I was not willing to admit even to myself. And we first have to be aware of something before we can start to do something about it and heal it. So we choose one thing that we wish to forgive. And then we start to see that person in that situation having done that to us. But now we try to put ourselves in the shoes of that person. How it would feel to us if we were in that person's shoes. How would we truly act if we were in that person's shoes? And here I want to specify that it's very important that we don't do it in a mental way, but we actually try to put ourselves into that person's shoes. For example, I was upset at a certain person for having behaved towards me in ways that were aggressive and vindictive, and I felt it was completely unfair and unright. And I truly believed that I would never ever have done anything like that. But I was thinking about myself having my history, my emotions, my particular structure. But then when I was trying to do this technique with that person and putting myself in those shoes, I was also putting myself with this, an attitude of empathy into their emotional world, into the pains that they have, into the complexes that they have from their past. And suddenly I felt the enormous emotional pressure that person was feeling in their particular situation, and how difficult that situation was, and how powerful those emotions were, and how powerless that person felt in front of those emotions, and how compelled he was by the tyranny of those emotions to do something. And even though they didn't want to act in that way, they couldn't, counteract those emotions. And I could see, wow, that was way, way, way more difficult for that person than I was judging them from outside. Because you can never judge a person from outside. Only from the inside, from how is their life, from how is their inner world, from their system of reference can you truly see how it is for them. So you put yourself really into their heart and into their situation, and you see how it is. And when you'll do that, you'll realize that reality is much further from the black and white that we do it. That the person is really not the kind of villain, the kind of monster, the kind of dehumanized person that we often make our enemies or the people who have wronged against us to be. We always attribute them the fact that they wanted something bad, that they didn't care, that they did it on purpose. And when we actually try to step into them, we realize actually there are no people who want to do bad things. They don't know. Often it comes of ignorance because they don't know any better, because their emotions get the better of them. And actually what I saw in that moment is that yes, I don't have that particular emotional problem, But I have other emotional problems, and sometimes I behave in ways that I don't want to because of my emotions. And in that moment, I realized how much I couldn't blame that person anymore. And more than that, I realized how much me judging them was in fact something that was wrong and probably was also hurting them. So this is the first phase where we try to put ourselves into the other person's shoes, but truly, and see how it would feel to us to be in their shoes, in their place. Then in the second phase, we then try to visualize that person, but this time not in any context that is negative, not in the way that they hurt us, not in any way that is conflictual with us, but in a way that is pure and innocent. For example, seeing them in a very beautiful moment or a very beautiful memory that we had with them, seeing them in the best light that we've ever seen them, or seeing them as a child when, because all children are beautiful and innocent. And suddenly when I was doing that, I was realizing what a beautiful person that is, how beautiful every person is. We just tend to dehumanize people by taking a certain perspective, a certain experience, a certain opinion, a certain expression that we have with them, and pretending to ourselves that they are only that, taking them out of their context. Even the people we severely disagree with, that we fight with, they still have their loves, their beauties, their dreams, and we dehumanize them by ignoring that. So this is a second phase, seeing them outside of that negative context, seeing them as a true human being in their most beautiful moments, or when they were still children, if we cannot anything else. And after we've done that, we move to the third phase, where we again pray to a higher force, to the universe, to God, to fill us up with the energies of compassion. And then we meditate upon this state of compassion, feeling how these energies of compassion from the universe fill us up, fill us up, fill us up, fill us up, until we are completely full of compassion. And that's a compassion, we can see it by the fact that also a certain state of detachment appeared in us. It's not that we don't care or we ignore the pain, but now we can let it go. We can see with this wise eye how, yes, maybe what that person did was wrong, but we can forgive them. We can see that it came from a place of their own pain. They maybe have hurt us, but they hurt ourselves because of the pain that they themselves have. And we forgive them just as we also forgive ourselves for having the judgments against them. And we just hope and pray for both us and them to go beyond our limitations, to go beyond our pains, and to find the happiness that is our birthright. By practicing this again and again and again in more and more situations, we gradually become more and more masterful. In the beginning, it's very, very, very difficult, and then we get better, and then we can do it very easily and become like an art form that we can do. In the beginning, we do it literally as a technique like this, and often with things that we have big problems, we might need to do this several times before we are able to forgive one thing. And with a person where we have a collection of things, we will have to first forgive one thing, and only then after that forgive the other, and then forgive the other, and eventually we clean it all out. But as we do it more and more and more, we learn to be able to do this, even not just sitting down and doing it as a meditation, as a technique for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but even in the day-to-day, as things happen, as we notice that now some anger and resentment appear, and then we already do it on the spot. And so, through practice, we become masters in the art of forgiveness. So, this is the notions that I wanted to share with you today. If you have any comments, anything to share, or any questions, please write in the comments. And if there is wish and if there is interest, I can make a further post where I would guide us through this technique. Now, this notion of forgiveness that I took from this book is only one of many, 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 many amazing advices and secrets, especially helpful for relationships, that you can find in this book, the Tantric Path of Love, the Secret Tantric Path of Love, which if you want, you can also find it online, for example, on the website natabooks.com, and I'll also put a link to that in the comments. Thank you very much, and I wish you all happiness, love, and forgiveness. Thank you.